All right, everybody, good morning. We are moving right along, although we are staying with the same university as well as the same round for this video as yesterday, because we're taking a look at another Michigan Wolverine. We're taking a look at a guy who plays on the offensive side of the ball, but otherwise might look a little bit familiar. His college tape will show, at least this most recent season, the same uniform. So, Olusegun Oluwatimi, although most people call him Oluwatimi or Olu. I like Oluwatimi. I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to refer to him as that from here on out. And I'm just going to say this. I am not saying that this guy will be our best player in this draft class. In fact, I don't think that will be the case. This is probably, however, my favorite pick from the 2023 draft class as of right now. This is the Tariq Woolen pick. I don't think he'll be as good as Woolen has ended up being so far in the NFL, but this is the pick that really got me out of my seat. This was the pick that brought together everything perfectly. Need, value, and scheme fit. It all came together perfectly for us to get Oluwatimi. And after having the opportunity to look even deeper into his career, I continue to hold to that. I think this guy is really, really good, and I think this guy is going to be a very important part of what we are building here in Seattle. I don't know if he's going to start this year. More than likely he won't, and maybe he will by the end of the year. But next year, you better believe he's the guy. So, Oluwatimi, let's talk about what can be talked about with him, and fortunately that's a lot because he played so much. Center. Last year played for Michigan. However, the 3 previous years he played for Virginia, so that's worth noting here. He's already going to be 24 years old when the season starts, so he's one of the older guys we drafted, but with that age comes experience, so it's a worthy trade-off. Combine measurements are mostly on the lower side. 6'2.5" puts him in the 21st percentile for height. 309 pounds is 74th percentile. However, he's apparently up to like 320 is what I've heard. If that's the case, then obviously that increases the percentile significantly. But again, it probably doesn't make all that big of a difference. He'll probably lose the weight by the time we get to the season with the way these things usually go. Arm length is exactly in the middle, 50%, 32 3/4. Hands are tiny by center standards, 8.63 inches. 3rd percentile, one of the smallest center hands you will ever see. Or, I guess the right way to put that would be the smallest set that you will ever see. But the athletic testing numbers they kind of threw people off, I think, a little bit. His testing numbers are kind of all over the place, but the thing that really stood out was just how slow he was on his 40-yard dash. 5.3840 is 21st percentile for centers. 1.86 10-yard split is 22nd percentile for centers. So this is a much slower than average center prospect for those who typically run at the combine. And that's a little bit weird because this guy's reputation is he's good in space, good blocking at the 2nd and 3rd level, a good player in movement, and is somebody who can make blocks down the field. So this was a little bit surprising and troubling. But it's part of the reason why he's here now instead of getting drafted in the 3rd round. So at the same time, it's a trade-off. You probably can't get this guy in the 5th round if he tests really well, the way that Linderbaum tested last year, for example. His other testing scores are pretty good. 29-inch vertical is 63rd percentile. 9'2" broad is actually really good for a center, 90th percentile, so he's got some explosiveness to him. 29 bench press reps is 72nd percentile, so pretty decent strength. And what you end up with from that set of combine testing scores is an image of a player that really isn't accurate. This guy is not necessarily, at least, the guy that these testing scores paint the picture of. More on that later, though. This video is Oluwatimi by the numbers, so let's talk about his 4 years so far in college football. And he had 4 years. He actually had more, but he didn't play until 2019. I think he started at Air Force, but he never played. So in 2019, he's a member of the Virginia football team, and he plays all 14 games they played that year, 933 snaps, so played basically every game. I think he played a total of 9 snaps at guard, but everything else was at center, so he's a center, a pure center. Allowed 4 sacks, 11 hurries, 15 total QB pressures, picked up 5 penalties. However, Virginia threw the ball a lot, so those numbers are actually pretty quality for that. 619 pass block snaps for Oluwatimi in 2019, compared to only 314. So they threw the ball a lot. And his 98.4 pass block efficiency, pretty good, pretty solid, nothing wrong with that. When Virginia did run the ball, they used zone a decent amount more than gap, which is also of note to us because you know that we kind of like both around here, but we are trying to adopt this zone offense. And his grades were solid but not spectacular. 69.2 overall, 76.2 pass block, and 66 run block. So solid all-around player. And that takes us to 2020 when he only played in 10 games. I think he got hurt. 718 snaps, though, still a really good sample size. Allowed 15 pressures again, but this time no sacks. So, in a manner of speaking, his pass protection got better, although the pressure rate's actually a little bit worse. 4 penalties, 98.2 efficiency, 454 pass blocking snaps, so they balanced out a little bit better, but still way more pass block reps than run block reps. And we also saw more gap runs and fewer zone runs, but still more zone overall. One thing that's worth noting is that his grade went up overall because his run blocking improved a good amount, but his pass blocking actually went way down. And looking at these numbers, it really doesn't look that bad. Yes, the efficiency went down a little bit. He allowed 15 pressures on way fewer pass block reps, but there was obviously something else going on here. But still, good season. And that takes us to 2021. He gave you 12 games, 910 snaps. So basically a full season again. 3 sacks, 5 hits, 12 hurries, 20 pressures. So he actually gave up more this year. Again, part of it was because he played way more pass block snaps than he ever had before, 664. But 20 pressures, 3 sacks, not great. 9 penalties, also pretty, it's not the end of the world, but he is definitely starting to rack up the negative plays. Pass block efficiency stays where it was last year. And again, they're running zone more than gap, but decent amount of both. And despite the increase in negative plays where he allows pressure, allows sacks, allows penalties, etc., his grade actually goes through the roof, mostly because he becomes such a great run blocker. 80 overall, 75.3 pass blocking, still really solid, but 90.2 run blocking. So he becomes a really spectacular run blocker on a team that passes the ball pretty much first, second, third, and fourth, and then maybe fifth, they start running the ball. So, for assorted reasons, he decided that 2022 would be the year he goes to a bigger school where he can get a little more attention. He transferred to Michigan to play for the Wolverines, and it worked out really well for him. And this is the year, obviously, that's the most important to us as evaluators and fans and people who support the Seahawks, because this is the player we're getting more than anything else. And on Michigan, he got the opportunity to do some things that he didn't really get to do at Virginia, like focus on run blocking. And he answered the bell for the most part. So that Michigan team, obviously great team they had last year. And Oluwatimi was an important part of it. He played all 14 games, 918 snaps, allowed 5 hits and 4 hurries, 0 sacks. Did not allow a single sack all season, 9 pressures. Now, part of the reason why that was is he didn't have to pass block nearly as much as he had previously. Michigan was a run-first team. 410 pass block snaps was the fewest of his career, including the year where he played 4 fewer games. So they made it easier for him. However, his efficiency as a pass blocker was still at an all-time high, almost 99, and he only had 6 penalties versus 9 the previous year. So he is improving as a player. Over 500 run block snaps, most of them gap, but a decent chunk of them zone. And again, I want to come back to this. We need players who do both, because Pete loves his A-gap runs, but Waldron's offense is a zone one. So you got to be able to do both in this offense, at least somewhat. And it seems like this guy can, because he had a really, really nice season on that Michigan offense that did utilize a lot of gap-based blocking schemes. So 80.4 PFF grade, 76.7 pass block grade, 83 run block grade. Great all-around play this year. Probably his best overall season, even though he wasn't as dominant as he was. Part of that was because an increase in the level of competition he was dealing with. And all in all, we are looking at one of the most experienced center prospects in this draft. Maybe the most. 50 games, and I believe he started all of them. Almost 3,500 snaps. So this guy played a ton. This guy's ready to go. 7 sacks allowed across those 2,147 pass block reps. 12 hits, 40 hurries, so 59 total pressures. So as a percentage of pass block reps versus pressured allowed, really, really solid, really, really reliable. 24 total penalties across those 3,479 snaps. Perfectly fine, especially because he did increase his overall ratios in 2022 from 2021. Very promising to see. And you can see that he had almost the exact same number of running plays he was blocking for in a zone scheme versus a gap scheme. So this guy can, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like he's amazing at both, but he can do both. He built a lot of experience doing both. So when you take a look at these numbers, you conclude that this guy's seen it all. This guy's seen it all. This guy's done it all. And that's promising for his future here in the NFL. But these are just numbers. Later today, we will take a look at the player. We will take a look at some of the games he's played and try to see what we are really getting ourselves into with Oluwatimi. See you guys later. Go Hawks.